Robin, you're still muted.
Okay, now I can hear. All right, hear Molly.
Can you hear me, Madam Chair?
They're
yes,
unmuting right
you.
now.
Thank you, Carlton.
Thank you,
Can you
ma'am.
stop?
We can hear you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we'll start again. Welcome to the meeting of the Beaufort County Board of Education Operations Committee, August 8th, 2023, being held at the District Education Services Center, Conference Room E, and also remote hybrid conferencing. Meeting will be live streamed, and the request for public comments, we've had that open since 4 o'clock to 4:30, and we've received none. So I will start with the call to order and the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
States of America.
for which it stands, one nation,
Under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
The agenda, we've had some requests to change the agenda. We would like to move the second quarter FOIA report to right after the approval of the committee minutes, and move the the transportation routes to executive session at the end of the meeting. So is there a motion to approve this agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, and I'm going to second, since I don't believe we have Mr. Smith on board. So all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item is the approval of committee meeting minutes for June 2nd, 2023. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
And I'll second it. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Next item, the July
You just slow
10th.
down just for a second.
Colonel Guy runs a meeting like me.
Okay.
Are you ready? All right. I'd like to have a motion to approve the July 10th, 2023 committee meeting minutes. Mr. Day, will you do that?
So moved.
And I will second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Now, Mr. Smith, we got rid of all the administrative stuff. Now we're going right to your second quarter FOIA report. And that would be. Where is that right here? You got it up on the screen?
Check. Yeah, please. On the very bottom. All right, I have it up on screen.
Okay. So you want to give us an update?
Sure.
Kansas?
Good afternoon, board members. For our second quarter FOIA monitoring report, we had a total of 40 requests this quarter. Last year, for 2022, we had 12. Obviously, is an increase. I think it's a 233% increase in requests. The majority of our requests came from repeat requesters. For example, 2 people accounted for 18 out of the 40 requests this quarter. And that's kind of where we are.
You covered it very well. A lot of it has to do with the books and those different things.
Did you have any that we did not grant?
Well, there's occasionally some that come through, I don't know the specifics off the top of my head, but there are occasionally some that come through that FOIA is for public documents. Sometimes people put questions in. Sometimes people ask for information that is exempt because of FERPA. There are people that again, ask for things that are covered under exemptions, and we're not able to give that information.
And then we do charge now when it gets to be reimbursed, and so we have to wait the 25% deposit receipt before we.
And so do we have any pending waiting for deposit?
I think right now it says requested, I'm just double check, looks like we actually deposit received.
We have a couple that are pending. We probably won't hear from them. That's kind of how it works if we don't hear right away. But I will say we've had more people pay than in the past. I think it's been increasing. Yeah.
Any questions from Mr. Smith?
Yeah, so they are paying for their 40 requests.
Yeah, I think more than usual. You know, sometimes we get requests for example, like something that we wouldn't provide is we get requests from people that want to solicit our employees, and they'll ask for email addresses and phone numbers and things like that. And then we will ask them, is this for solicitation purposes? And if so, we cannot grant this, and then
Because we can't provide for commercial purposes.
you know, but some people do. The people more than usual have been paying.
And you said the majority of these 40s were the ones from the book banning.
I think that's fair to say. Yeah.
Mr. Nate, do you have any questions?
No questions. Thank you.
Any other board members, Mr. Campbell? Dr. Paulus?
No questions at this time.
Okay, I believe that's the only other board members
Yeah.
on. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you for letting us know.
We'll move to the next item, and that's the ground survey. Robert, who's going to give us talk about that?
Miss Brandy Major.
Good evening, Chair and fellow board members. I want to start out by thanking each of you for your continued support and your kind remarks expressed at the board meeting last week. It's nice to hear that validation, and I just wanted to let you all know that we appreciate that positive
Can you
feedback.
speak a little louder? We
Yes.
got to make sure.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Tonight we are presenting for your review, a summary of the ground service contracts that are currently in place, with Beaufort County School District. This summary is in response to a request that was made by the committee at the last operations committee meeting. If I may, at this time, I'd like to take the opportunity for the management staff from each ground service provider to introduce themselves. Brian, if you would start.
Yes, my name is Ryan McVeigh. I'm the branch manager for Brightview Landscape Services.
Ed Miller, ABM Maintenance.
Steve Campbell, ABM Maine.
Brandon Deuceman, branch manager for the greenery for the north of the Broad Schools.
Thank you.
Floyd Grantham, branch manager for the greenery in Bluffton.
Okay.
Darren Broman, client relationship manager for Hardyville Bluff.
Thank you, gentlemen. The summary that you have in front of you is organized in 4 sections. So we heard what y'all asked for, and hopefully the information that we're providing is what y'all were looking for as far as the who does what locations they're currently assigned to, and how our services are being completed. So the first section reviews the contracts awarded. So how we're currently set up is we have 3 contracts. We have a grounds maintenance non-athletic contract, an athletic fields contract, as well as our current grounds facility maintenance department also has a piece of grounds that they also service. Each one of these, which you'll see in this section, are at different stages in their contract period. I do want to make a note for the grounds non-athletic contract that the way that contract was bid was based on 9 groups per the solicitation, and those vendors were actually awarded by the groups based on costing criteria that were listed in the solicitation. As far as the grounds athletic service contract, that particular contract was divided between north of the Broad and south of the Broad. And that solicitation, the north of the Broad and south of the Broad groups were based on cost and criteria again, and awarded to one specific contractor. For our grounds maintenance non-athletic service contract, that was awarded to the greenery and Brightview Landscape Services. The athletic field service contract is currently being held by Brightview Landscape Services. And then, of course, we have our maintenance piece. If we continue down the page, we have our contractor scope of work. So what we've provided to you in this section is just a very brief. I do want to put out there that this is not the entirety of their scope of work, but this is kind of a high-level brief of what they're doing for the non-athletic, the athletic fields, and the maintenance grounds. Our non-athletic services are primarily consist of our mow, blow, and go is what we call it. So they come on campus, they mow the area that are non-athletic, they blow the hardscapes, they trim the edges, they apply pine straw twice a year to the front elevation of the school sites. They do birth regulation and insect treatment. So that's kind of the brunt of what our grounds non-athletic service provider does. Our athletic fields, they're mainly focused on our football, softball, baseball fields, all of our premium fields that we have currently located throughout the district. You'll see there's a note there that the turf fields, we have updated the contract to include 4 additional services for our turf fields that have gone in and are currently installed at schools. And then to finish out that category, our maintenance ground service, they fall into doing those other services that our current grounds providers aren't covering, like our bush hogging, our maintenance as far as our retention ponds, our courtyards, just to name a few things.
And who's doing that all part?
The bush hogging and the retention ponds, that's something that would fall under our maintenance grounds crew. So that's ABM.
Right.
That's ABM.
And actually, I would definitely like that we requested the board meeting, a full scope of work so that we can understand exactly what everyone is doing. Because there's a lot of stuff that is not being done. And so it's hard for us to make an analysis or to analyze what is not being done when we don't have the full scope and outline of what they expect to do, because then you start saying that these people aren't doing certain things and versus not knowing that. So that is very, very imperative that we get the actual full scope and not, I appreciate what you did, but we need the actual full scope when you get a chance.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
We can just we'll send out copies from the contracts on.
On what it entails.
Yeah, we can send you the whole contract.
I would suggest that you make it simply a series of headings, bullet points, boom, 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 boom. This is what you're supposed to do. And cut the grass, just what you mentioned, but put it in something like a chart
Okay,
so that we can then show it to our constituents and very simply without having them to read the whole contract.
right.
What is the contract public information? The
Mhm.
Yeah, the contract is public information, so send me the contract,
Yeah, you can give them, but I'm talking for the full board.
There's a lot of reading to get
Yeah,
to that
it's
information.
right.
For the full
Yeah,
board,
that's
just
it.
give us the executive summary, kind of like this bullets. Okay, please go on.
Okay, the next,
Let's let her finish and then
Okay.
I'll let you.
the next section, is just simply stated, it's who's assigned to what. Under each contract, what provider is assigned to what location, currently in the school district, and it's organized in the same fashion that we've organized the previous 2 sections. So I'm not gonna go into great detail about that. The next section, the very last section of this document is the when and how our service is completed. So again, we're speaking to each individual contract. You've got the grounds maintenance, non-athletic service piece. The schedule is reoccurring for those mow, blow, and go services. The expectation is that services are being scheduled weekly and completed weekly. There are events with our contracts that do impact, and I wanted to put that do impact or cause a delay to our service providers. And I listed a few examples of, when those types of instances could occur. As far as the athletics field grounds maintenance service, that schedule, again, that's going to be based on your athletic field schedules and also the events that are going on at your school. The maintenance grounds piece, that piece is really driven by our work order system. We do have some things that are on reoccurring schedules, such as courtyards, retention ponds, those sort of things that in general, a lot of the work requests that are completed by our maintenance ground service are driven by concerns that come in through that work order system. So that in a nutshell completes the grounds report. And I'm going to open it up for questions.
Okay, let's have the committee members. Mr. Smith, do you have any additional questions? Okay, Mr. Nate, do you have any questions?
No questions. Thank you. Very well done.
I've got two brief questions. Number one, the turf field on the playgrounds. Who's responsible for that? You said turf field for the athletic field.
We've had conversations about adding them to our contracts, but at this time they're not. So it would be more of a maintenance item if there's a concern. But we have talked about adding them to like the athletic contract, so they care for that turf like they do the athletic fields, but we have not at this. So it's blown off, I guess, blowing off would be done by the non-grounds contractor. Any repairs or any work would be done by maintenance.
Okay. Mr. Campbell, you have a question?
Yes, who is responsible for the well branch cross cluster? What contractor is responsible?
Right behind you, sir.
Right here. Okay. How often do they do the mow the lawns, the grass?
So it's weekly visits. It used to be, we had it on Friday afternoons. It was one of the last visits of the week for us. We moved that to Mondays because by Friday afternoons, it's hot, it's weather, everything gets
You
pushed.
need to speak up for the people who are on.
Sorry. So it was Friday afternoons. We don't have it Monday mornings. So that way there's no rain delays. I think it's pushed back. So it is weekly mowing with our regular crew that does the mowing, the edging, the blowing, the pruning. We also have a secondary crew with a large wide area mower that comes in and cuts the large open areas. So we're technically there with 2 days with 2 different crews. But Monday mornings will be the weekly recurring.
Okay, well, I have some concern on especially the Whale Branch Early College High School. There's a sidewalk that you come in from the back from the football field. It goes down to about maybe a couple thousand feet. And that sidewalk has never been cut, never. And you have children that walk that sidewalk. And there's snakes out there. And even on Whale Branch campus, there are snakes. Whale Branch Middle School, he's going driving 21. Next to the fence, grass is that high. So I hope from here on out, there'll be a lot of improvement. Because is that including the contract, inside and outside the fence?
So the fence line itself is more of a maintenance item. But mowing up to the fence would be
On the outside.
Yeah, we
or out just outside the fence. I don't know.
so in Will Branch Middle where he was talking about, it'd be like that first path along the roadway there, and it kind of comes to the retainage ditch, and then you have to come to the ditch to the great fence board of the track. That's something that we've done since I've taken over in 4 years. So if that is part of the scope or something, we'll be glad to look at it. But say it's always been maintained outside of us.
And you said maintenance does what there?
They would be responsible for the actual fence line. I mean, if you got to spray the fence or something like that, that would be a pain.
Who's responsible for trees falling down? Who's responsible for moving those?
So, I mean, as far as large limbs that break off, that would be a maintenance.
And one is a tree that fell down, been now 7 months now, next to tennis court. It's down the much.
At the early college.
High school. Okay. Thank you.
I do have one question for the sidewalk you was mentioning. So when you leave the Will Branch Early High School, let's say you're going past the practice football field, you're talking about the sidewalk to the right.
Yeah,
So we stop right there at the road. That sidewalk to the right isn't part of.
that's part of the campus. So why is not at,
Come out all the way out of the road.
yeah, it's you get to the road, there's a sidewalk That goes all the way down.
It heads back south towards Buford.
Yeah, I mean, that sidewalk would be part of the roadway work, which is the county's responsibility.
But that's our property.
Where, is it on our property?
That's not our property.
Is that, let us look into that.
I'll gladly cut it for you this week to get it taken care of, at least go off the books until we can decide one way or the other, but I know exactly what you're talking
You know where he's talking about?
Yep.
Can you,
The crisis is that you get, right?
can you Google and send me
Practice.
a shot of it?
Yep.
So we kind of know, if it's not yours, then we can figure out who it is.
We go in,
Yeah.
So those sorts of homes and stuff.
probably stuff, even if it is outside of our, in the right of way, we can mow that.
Yeah, we can gladly take that on since we're there. I don't mind doing it at all.
Mr. Campbell, are you finished?
Yeah.
Dr. Claus, do you have any questions?
No, thank you.
Mr. Smith, did you have anything else?
Just listening to, actually, I'm glad that you did that analysis. My question is, in terms of contracting, it kind of concerned, I'm just wondering, why do we have ABM taking care of certain part of the sites and then the blow and go? Because I think the more people you have taking care of one contract, not even contract, that you have to take care of one site, that makes it, it makes it more hazard. I think that we need to have one person taking care of sites, because it appears that there are different levels of that. I mean, and if we can't get a contractor who can handle these sites and that's probably another problem. That's very problematic, because I see the greenery handling sites that are bigger than school sites, and they seem to handle those fine. So, or if we want to ABM handle it, ABM need to handle it. But I think to have two people on one site it makes it problematic, because at the end of the day, don't nobody know who, and then not everybody point a finger and say, well, this is supposed to be done, that's supposed to be done. That's a problem. So that's something that we would need to, I would like to have look into it as well. And also, who's checking these sites? We know who's checking the sites for the schools when the plumbing and different things are being done. But who's actually going there weekly or monthly and checking these sites? Because I'm gonna tell you, I got a lot of people complaining at a lot of these schools about how things are looking, and they're telling me, well, they're actually some of the managers. These managers they're not sure what's supposed to be cut from what's not supposed to be cut. That's why I'm specifically asking for this information, because before we start pointing fingers and doing all that, we need to understand exactly what's to be done. And it seems like it's been made more complicated than what it really needs to be. So I mean, can the greenery handle the work? Or can ABM handle the work? Because obviously the work is not getting done. And this is something that's been going on for a little while now. And I was hoping that we would have this done, and this was to be situated, be rehabbing this conversation again. So in essence, how would you like for us to proceed to get this done? That's my question.
What I can tell you is what you're describing is not how our contract is currently set up. So we would have to amend our contract if it was decided to go in that direction. That is not the way our current contract is set up.
Do we feel that this work cannot be done by one person?
No, it's not whether it can be done. It's felt that that's not as cost efficient. Because if every one of them has to have a bush hog, well, their costs are all gonna go up, because that's not something, they have to bring it to the site every day. If they have to deal with the disposal of the trees and all that, it's made for them to be able to get in, get the sites done as quickly and as efficiently as possible. That's why I call it the mow, blow, and go model for the most part. My thought is cost, if you ask for one individual contractor to do everything on that contract, the cost will go.
I mean, and you pay, and I understand that, and I also understand that you get what you pay for. And within the same token, because we talk about people taking pride in our buildings, and teachers and administrators and staff trying to take pride in the building, and the blow and the mow, it don't seem like it's doing the job. So therefore, what's the next remedy? Because it seems like the BOGO and the blow go is they blowing and going and actually versus cutting and doing other things and like that's the problem of the constituents. So therefore, I mean, obviously what we have, I believe it needs to another look at it.
Well, what I would hope is this meeting today and all your contractors are here and they're hearing that what's being performed right now is not acceptable and the board is not happy with the current what they're seeing getting done on their sites. So either things need to be approved or we're going to need to change either the contractor or the format in which it's done.
What you're talking about, Mr. Smith, is a general contractor who would have subcontractors to do the individual things, because there's not any one business that has the scope and the expertise to do that. So you would have to do it just like my neighborhood does it. We have a general contractor and he subs it out for the different things. But that's a fundamental change that would have to be, it's a budget item that would have to be brought up, the budget discussion starts in January. To change it.
Here's a question. You said, what the bush hog, who, do we have a bush hog?
Yes, maintenance has two, one large, one small.
Then there should not be any excuses then to bush hog those areas that need to be bush hog.
Well,
They get extremely wet and sink.
yeah, I mean, there's two issues that come up a lot. One is water, as Freddie's alluded to. The other is just manpower. Their grounds crew is 4, and they do other things. They do road patchings. Everything we talked about throughout the district, they're responsible for. So it's, if trees are down, if people want plants moved, things need to be cleaned up, things need to be set up. So I would say that we would need to expand. There's potential that we may need to expand the size of the maintenance crews to meet the demands of what's being requested.
So if you don't have enough crews or the equipment, why not go outside and have somebody come in and do it?
Well, that's what we've done a lot, is that we paid outside contractors to come in and do a lot of that work. If you like at Well Branch Early College High School, that was done by Oliver's. One thing to knock it down, and also sometimes they don't have the manpower available to get there fast enough because they have other things that they're doing.
It has to be improved. Because the amount of money that we spend, no school should look the way that's for those school looks. The grass, bushes and all that. So, thank you.
Anything else?
And I mean, just who's all of this?
They're an outside contractor. They do a lot of clearing work. So if you ever have to have wood, if there's stuff that's grown up a lot, they've got machines that'll come in and chew everything up and get it knocked all over the desk.
That's just some graduation.
We did that out of Well Branch Early College High School. We had, because by that time we had some small trees out there and things, so they came in and chewed everything up and cleared it out. They do really good work.
Oh no, I thought we get the county easement to do that. I thought the county was gonna.
Oh, that's the ditches. I'm talking about the wetland areas in the front. The county came and cleared out those ditches in the back. So the county did the work in the back, Oliver's did the work in the
Okay,
and we don't have the equipment to do the ditches in the back, because that requires we call it an arm mower. So that requires a mower with an arm to get up there, and we do not have that. That does have to, somebody else is gonna have to do that for us, because we don't have that equipment.
Okay, I think we,
Carlton, he didn't have his hands on, but he's on there.
okay. Let's, if we have nothing else, let's move on to the next agenda item. So,
well, as we move on, I just want to put it that I think that let me say this. It's good to have the managers here today, and it's good for them to understand some of the issues that we're talking about that we're facing. But to some degree, we still at a road where we still can't say definitively what it's not being done, and we can't speak to every single site, and I'm glad that he was here, and then Ms. Campbell can speak about that Royal Branch site. But to say that, you know, that we're not satisfied with their work, hell, they might be doing their work, and it might be some stuff outside the scope of their work. So at this point, that's why I asked to have the actual scope of the work, so we can understand and maybe have some pictures, because and maybe we may need to have a meeting at one at Royal Branch, and we need to have our next operations meeting, go on the road so that we can see and understand the scopes of this. Because to me, there's deeper than just telling them and bringing them in and saying that we're not happy with the work. Because I can't tell somebody that I'm not fully happy if I don't understand, and they don't know. They're not sure exactly what I'm telling them. If we have not had a risk assessment to see what's done and what's not done. Because now they're going there and they're working hard, and this may not even be the area of stuff that actually is within the actual scope. So I just want to say that brings me some concern as well moving forward.
Okay, we'll make a report at the, and I give the operations committee report. If we could have the scope bullets and show the scope of each of the three categories. And we will announce that or lay that out for the full board and see if the full board has any guidance on what they want to do. Okay.
Oh, when I say I'm talking about actually the operations committee, not as in the full scope of the board, that's fine. But I'm talking about the operations committee in terms of analyzing and having that same conversation. Mr. Campbell and Scoop, so what's your name for the record?
Brandon.
And Mr. Brandon had that was a great conversation, because they were able to decide and talk about what took place. That's just for example of what I mean. Thank you.
Got it. Let's move on. Maintenance and custodial monthly update. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you.
Brandon, that's you.
All right, moving right along. So tonight we are presenting the monthly maintenance and custodial report for July of 2023. This report includes data collected from July 1st through July 31st. I am going to, just for the sake of time, if it's okay with the committee, I'm going to move very quickly through the custodial and maintenance report to allow us to have additional time to talk about the work order completion report. That's a new summary that we're reporting to the committee tonight for the first time. So I have a feeling we're gonna want to have a little more time to discuss that report. I'm going to start out with custodial service section of this report. Normally I start with maintenance, but I wanted to kind of keep maintenance topics together. Quickly in the highlighted area for the custodial services, one of the things that I want to call attention to was, as of the last operations committee meeting, we did talk about the notice to cure that was issued to HES facilities due to 2 failed inspections. The re-inspection was completed on July the 20th. That inspection score result did result in a 93%. And the notice to cure was satisfied and sent to HES Facilities Department on July 27th. Going through, wanted to let y'all know that we are back to doing spot inspections again. So myself and the account managers, you'll see on the first page, we have a few floor highlight pictures to show some of the waxing service that's been done. On the second page, moving to the staffing section, we did hear the concerns from board members at the board meetings that there was an interest in reporting staffing percentages for each school site for the month of August. So I wanted to make note that we will include that in the next monthly report to the operations committee. And that kind of finishes out custodial. Is there any questions about the custodial section of the report?
Mr. Smith, do you have any questions?
No.
Mr. Nate, do you have any questions?
No questions. Thank you.
Mr. Campbell?
No.
Dr. Claus? Mr. Dallas?
It's no longer on.
Okay. Thank you. Very much. Go ahead.
Okay. So we'll move on to the maintenance update for the month. The first two sections are data sections that we reported in a similar format in previous months. The first section are the work orders to date. These are the final numbers for FY 23. We will be reporting starting on the next report FY 24, which will include the first 2 months of the fiscal year. The July 2023 work order numbers, I wanted to make note on those that there was some concern with the percentage of the maintenance initiated and completed work order percentages being lower last reporting period. And I did want to make note, they have increased the initiated from 9% to 16%, and then the completed from 66% to 103%. So we saw significant improvement in these two categories over the last month. Moving to page 2, we're going to focus on the work orders by craft. Those highlighted sections include our 2 largest craft categories that were reported. And again, we have HVAC being the highest return on work orders. Coosa Elementary School had the highest HVAC work order total for the month. What we saw in these requests were, again, a lot of the work orders were for summer schedule HVAC requests outside of normal service schedules. And we saw system resets, and we also our maintenance HVAC crew did troubleshoot leaks in the systems to bring things back online for the HVAC section. The other caution light we had was general maintenance. So that category was still high this last month. And that was, again, primarily for general maintenance items such as moves and installations of various things in the school. Moving through the next section, we have the summer project spotlight. So in our previous reports, we focused on a school blitz and provided data for that school blitz. But in the month of July, we did not do school blitzes. What maintenance staff decided to do was we went into schools and they completed mini blitzes to try to service more schools, get work orders totals down, completion totals, as well as, try to provide a lot more support. So you'll see in that category, I selected 5 north of the Broad schools, 5 south of the Broad schools, and provided the data for those mini blitz completions that we did in the month of July. Moving on, we've got the staffing. We're still currently at the same staffing percentage. We are currently, maintenance is currently looking for a HVAC manager. So we have lost our HVAC manager since the last report. So we're hoping to see a candidate come around sooner than later, but just recognize that that is a vacancy. Recognizing success, that section, we've listed some projects, specific summer projects that were completed to spotlight some of the things maintenance has been doing over the last month, as well as provided pictures for a project north of the Broad and south of the Broad, that y'all could see some of the things, get an idea of what do summer projects look like and what are some of the requests out there for our maintenance staff to complete. That concludes the maintenance report and custodial report. There, you should also have a copy of the inspection results that were completed for HES to show the inspection that was passed. So do y'all have any questions before we move on to work order completion?
Mr. Smith? Yes, I do. How many buildings do we have that don't have custodians for full staffing?
Well, I would say over the summer, keep in mind, we don't have a full staff in our buildings over summer. So over summer, our staffs are reassigned. And what occurs over summer, our staffing levels for HES custodial services decreases. We have custodians that do not elect to come back and work over the summer. as well as shortages, because people leave at the end of the school year. A lot of our custodial staff do work seasonally, especially in the Hilton Head area. So our staffing levels do decrease over the summer, and the direction of our staffing is directed to our deep cleaning efforts. So instead of custodians being assigned at their designated schools, they're reassigned based on whatever the summer needs are. So let's, for example, if we have summer school at Broad River Elementary School, the custodial service provider will ensure we have staff there to support summer school, that any remaining staff that don't need to support that summer school will be reassigned to another location to start the deep cleaning efforts, like the floor waxing and all the deep cleaning scope that's done by HES. So I hope that answered your question.
No, that didn't answer my question, which leads me to my next question. And so in terms of over the summer doing deep cleaning schools, what does that process look like?
So what is that process? So initially, HES will go in and they will do their floor work. That's their main focus, to get the furniture out of the spaces and the places and get staff in there to do all of the floor work, whether that's the top scrubbing efforts or the deep cleaning with their waxing. You know, they have to strip the floor. They try to base minimum put 4 coats. The contract does call for 4 coats back on the flooring surface, but a lot of times they'll shoot for 5 or 6. So that's the number one thing they do. They're all about clearing it out and getting those floors done. They take the majority of the time. Once those floors are completed, then, and that's normally towards the end of July, first part of August, then, and their staffing numbers start to ramp up around that time as well. Then they'll start bringing in staff, more staff to cover deep cleaning. So deep cleaning is they're bringing all the furniture back in. They're cleaning the carpets, the classroom carpets. They're dusting all the furniture in that space. They're wiping all the dust and chairs down. They're cleaning the restrooms. So it's a detailed clean. They're cleaning windows. They're wiping down blinds. They're cleaning return vents. They're, I mean, I could go on and on.
Leaving dirty.
It's dirty, they should be.
Right, and I understand that, but one of my concerns is that I do, even as a kid, I remember when my mom was working in school that they have Mr. Children, one of the custodians. I think they would go into, sometimes they would go and work in one school, do that deep cleaning, and once they leave there, then go to another school with them, because they were not really decreasing them. They were just bringing more manpower in terms of getting the stuff out of, like, in other words, like the where we have our meetings at, to get in that kind of place, you take everything out of there and get into that floor and put stuff back. And so the more manpower, the more quicker and the more time you even need, because sometimes that stuff that wax does stink. And so my question is, in doing this, what's the process? Because if you're slowing down and you're focusing on one school for the whole 2 months, I think two months could possibly be enough time to service 33 buildings. And so how much of schools that we have in terms of the manpower that we have. So are we really deep cleaning, or are we surface cleaning with the manpower that we have? So that's that, just get straight to my point and stop asking questions. That's a concern, and that's what that's what I guess. Do we have?
If I can, what you described is exactly what how they operate. You know, they bring a number of people in, they focus on that building.
Mhm.
What I will say is that if they are supposed to do the deep cleaning, as you said, throughout the summer to all the buildings. If they don't, they will fall behind very quickly when students start to get in. So I mean, if they don't get all that work done in the summer, it's almost impossible for them to catch up. So they pretty much have to. They're going to be in trouble when the school year starts, once all the kids get. And it'll be noticeable if they don't.
Mr. Nate, do you have any questions?
No questions. Thank you.
Campbell? No, I don't. I don't see,
She is on.
Dr. Claus?
You're muted. She said no question.
No question. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Brandy. We'll move on to the next item. Next item is work order. I'm sorry, construction update.
You wanna do the work order?
Yeah,
Yeah,
the work order.
Oh, the work order.
It's part of it.
Sorry, it's part of maintenance. I just wanted to give y'all. a chance
Okay.
to, have any comments about the maintenance summary. So the next section that we're gonna go over is the maintenance work order completion report. This summary that's in front of you is in response to again, a request that was made by the committee for this information. This is the first time presenting this report. So if I may kind of go through it, explain how it's set up, what it looks like, and then just open the floor up for questions. The summary is organized into 4 sections. So you've got your work order, explanation of workflow, your priority levels, how we're prioritizing service requests, and then work order completion totals. So I'll start with the first section. The first section is an explanation of a workflow. So when a work order comes in, it shows you the different roles that that work order takes as far as from the requester. And then once it goes from the requester, it's going to that work order admin, and she's assigning it out based on trade and school assignments. And also if it's an emergency work order, she's identifying that and she's escalating it. The diagram you see in front of you, the blocked arrows are the indicating the majority of how our work orders go through the system, which is a requester to a work order admin, and then it gets filtered down to the manager and the general maintenance service technician. Those other solid black arrows are where work orders can branch out, where their specialty trades like our locksmiths, our HVAC techs, our generator technicians, as well as our contractors. So keep in mind when work orders come in, schools and sites can put in a work order. They have an issue with any of our other service providers like the Greenery or Brightview, or even our roofing contractors. It is maintenance's responsibility when they receive those work orders to identify who they belong to. And if it's needs to be assigned to one of our other service providers, then they make that distinction and they go ahead and assign it out to the other service providers. So that's what that work order workflow. I wanted to show y'all kind of the process of how things are coming in and who's doing what. Going to the next section, we've got our work order priority levels and School Dude. So these are the levels that School Dude already has in place to identify categories as far as how work orders should be assigned. The emergency work orders, everyone in our system that is a requester has access to select a work order as an emergency. So what that does is when they press that button on the requester screen, it sends a notification on the dashboard of the work order admin. It's like a little red flashing bell that shows her, hey, there's an emergency work order. I need to click on this immediately, evaluate it, and see who I need to contact to get a response. The other level is a high and low level. This level is mainly available for those within the maintenance department. This is not an option for our school staff. The medium level of priority is an auto default. So the system automatically defaults every time a user puts in a request. It's going to auto default to the medium level. The last 2 levels are scheduled and safety. And those 2 levels are specific to the administrator side. So if you want to get really further with filtering down your data, you can put it in one of those categories so you can identify it quicker. Moving on to the next section, I want to talk a little bit about prioritizing service requests. So this is the logic when maintenance comes in and those work orders come in that are assigned to the maintenance staff. That status of that work order is put automatically once it's assigned into work in progress. So there's some thought that has to go into prioritizing the amount of work orders that come in. So what you have before you is how the logic in which these work orders are being prioritized. Emergency, obviously, and I try to give you some examples of when we're looking at emergency life safety, asset preservation, impact to learning environments, what does that look like in the field? And so you'll see that displayed there. We've got emergency, obviously, when it's active fire or gas leak, we're evacuating students, that's an emergency. Life safety, a lot of times will be security related items. Asset preservation, a lot of times that's our leaks. We're trying to get to the school before, restroom is completely flooded, and it impacts our facility. And then the last is impact to learning environment. A lot of those situations can be, just one restroom is closed, and they need to get out there. So that's when when maintenance is looking at prioritizing work orders, there's a certain logic that has to go into it. And that's kind of that's what they do. That's those categories that they will put those work orders in to try to get them. Yeah, in general, that's our template that we try to stick to. The last two sections, I'm curious to hear y'all's feedback on this, because I just want to put out there that these sections were a labor of love. We've never recorded these before. So it took a lot of time to really try to get into what do we want it to look like? What do y'all as a board want to see when it comes to work order completion totals? So I'm just going to go through and explain the categories and then open it up for questions. So what I did was split it in two different sections, north of the Broad Schools and south of the Broad Schools. You have your total work order counts completed for July for each side, plus your total work orders requested. So then there's a percentage line for those two categories. And then we get into completion, which is what I think we've been talking about for a while. We've heard board members say, what can we see in completion? So to speak to the north of the Broad data, 200 work orders were requested and completed within the month of July. So that's 35% of the total work orders requested. The next 7 categories below that are status categories and school due. So those are open categories that have not been completed yet. So you'll see them listed out. They could be work in progress, voids, parts, forwarded, duplicate, declined. And then we always have our outlier, right? We always have data where there's some format that just wasn't filled in. And so we've got to account for that variance. So once you scroll through all those percentages, you're going to see that figure. I probably should have highlighted it. For north of the Broad Schools, on average, it took 4.98 days for completion time for a work order. Okay, for the month of July. And I broke it down a little bit further because I wanted y'all to have as much data as I could think of. And we gave 192 for completion between 0 to 14 days, and then 8 were completed 15 to 31 days. So we followed that. I followed that same format in the south of the Broad School listing. 219 work orders were requested and completed within the same month, which put us at a 44% completion rate. And then overall average work order completion time frame put us at 4.95 days. So that's a lot of data, and I recognize that, and I'm sorry for all the numbers, but I wanted to give the committee more than less and just get your feedback and get any questions from you at this point.
Mr. Smith, do you have any questions?
I'll let you go ahead.
Mr. Nay?
No questions. Very thorough. Thank you.
Let me give you some feedback.
Okay.
First of all, the north and south data's noise level difference. And there's very little difference in your data between north and south of Broad, which is a good thing. 4.98 and 4.95 days of completion time seems to be good as within a working week, so to speak. So that looks good. This is going to be most important is tracking it over time. This is July. This is not a normal year. So this data is kind of a baseline. And then we'll see it as it lays out through the year. Question I have is who at the school is given authorization to submit these work orders? How is that done? Principal the one? Do they designate somebody? Or is it every teacher or everybody there can put in a request? How is it filtered and who is responsible in each school for doing this? Because you have to have some stability and who's responsible for turning these things in.
So the requesters generally at the school level are decided by the principal. The school principal has a decision as to whom is going to be filling out the work orders for their site. We ask them for at minimum one person and then one backup. So at least two per site, we ask them to put into school due.
It's normally the office manager.
It's normally the office manager, sometimes it's the bookkeeper. We've had some schools have the AP oversee their facilities. So unfortunately, it's not really consistent because again, it's up to the school principal to decide who they want to take on that facilities task.
That's something that I think should have been talked about today when the principals were meeting, because it should be somewhat consistent. Otherwise, you're gonna have different data from different schools because you're gonna have different people that are gonna be, you know, the gym teacher is gonna be doing things, and the athletic director is gonna be doing things, and the bookkeeper and the APs. There needs to be some kind of standard operating procedure. That's what we've always called it before.
But I think typically at every school, the principal informs the staff of how work orders are input. So if at Will Branch Middle School, he's calling it work orders, all teachers, even custodians send the work orders to these Conley for the request. This Conley would send it off to put in school dues. And unfortunately, I got a receipt every time that happened. But typically that's how it happens. So whoever the designee is, the members of the staff are told to send an email to that person. So you have two forms of documentation. One, the one you send as email, two, the one that the office manager or bookkeeper whoever is in charge sends to the school.
I would think that in your office, it seems that you have 33 schools, and underneath the 33 schools, you've got Jones, Smith, and so it's going to be giving you these work orders so that you know that there's some consistency and some control over it.
Well, one thing is an elementary school is gonna be a lot different than high school.
Sure.
High school is gonna have, I mean, an elementary is usually pretty simple.
Yeah.
Once you get to a high school, there's gonna be more. There's gonna be an AP, usually there's gonna be an AD.
Right.
So that's something to keep in mind too. But I will say, you mentioned teaching principals. Randy and Carol are gonna be doing an operations and Freddie a presentation at Summer Institute on Thursday. So
That's something that would be really good to
We
talk
do that
about.
every year.
yeah, we try to get out.
Try to do it every year.
And-
One occasion or another, sometimes. Last year, we did a lot for the assistant principals, sort of a condensed version. This year, we're trying to do a little more.
I really think this is gonna be very, very valuable over time. Because I think you did a great job. Thank you. And this is, just keep this, the big data is the dates.
Well, I was gonna ask you that, because my thought is that, because you gotta look back at what we're reporting to you on a maintenance report. My thought was just to add that days, and we could track that in a graph. too.
Right.
Maybe not all of this.
Yeah, right.
Okay,
Right.
that's kind of a thought going forward.
What's really important to the people in the school is how fast does it get fixed? And that's what they want to know.
Well, I think that all this is good because of the fact that even moving forward, now we have something to, we have some teeth and we have something to go by. And even if we got another company, then they can see, hey, this is the question that's coming in. This is what we've been watching. And so now there's something consistent, there's some consistency. That just goes back to basically what he just said about the standard practice. I think that is very advantageous. I think it's very important that at every level that we have a consistent person, because we have people who we are working on paying them paying them up to the level of professional, then at some degree, we need to have some standard operating procedures to know, okay, well, if this maintenance guy, if he has a problem, who does he go to, or okay, at this school, everybody know either the bookkeeper is the person who handle that. At high schools, you may have an assistant principal, and you may have an athletic director because he has athletic facilities that put in work orders. So therefore, there's two people who you know that you go to at every school who would take care of that. So as a maintenance guy, you know that. You don't have to say, go to the principal and say, well, who put this in? Or because I've seen them out there at school struggling, trying to figure out where's the root of the problem, or who put it in, or I don't really understand. So I'm not really sure what she said. Or I know what there was in that. It was in room B26, and they said that this was the situation. Okay, well, where did that come from? So now they're trying to fix something, and they're trying to track down what does that look like. So I think that makes it very important to have standard practices in this district. That is something I've been pointing on for a while now, that we must get standard practices at the district level. Because if we don't have them here, then they don't matter at the school level, because leadership starts from the top. So at every building, I think I agree with Cigar, we need some standard practices on who we have dealing with these situations. Because I think it helps everyone to be able to narrow things down in a timely manner. And this is a great start. That's why I don't have much to say today. I think we should continue this, therefore we can have something to go back and look on. Thank you.
Okay, anything else you want to add? All right, I think we're ready to move on. Construction update, Rob.
Front and center, sir. Good afternoon, and thanks for the opportunity to provide an executive construction update. I will begin by stating that market conditions are continuing to show some small signs of improvements, which is the direction we wanted to head in. In the materials for this evening, there is one yellow traffic light that appears in the project updates. It's for May River High School. As we've reported through the summer, we're continuing to monitor and address and manage the completion of that turf field and that first home football game on August 18th. And it looks like it's coming in with a soft landing. We just need weather to cooperate across the finish line, but the vendors brought in additional resources to supplement. So we don't anticipate any problems there. Moving on, slide 54 for St. Helena Elementary School, the gym entry canopy. The work is on schedule to complete the new canopy on or before August 14th. You'll see in the materials that we are working to coordinate the ribbon cutting ceremony that was requested. Before the meeting this evening, we did get some proposed dates submitted by Dr. Mack. First choice is September 15th, and the second choice is September 8th. Don't know, Mr. Smith, if you have a preference of one of those dates or the others, but if you do and you'll let us know. I think, Robert, didn't you say that those dates appear to be working with the other board members?
Robin mentioned there wasn't any.
There's nothing scheduled, and they said that start with Mr. Smith. So it's
It is on
imperative that you
Friday.
say, yeah, both dates are Fridays. That you gave.
So if you'll look at your schedule and get back to us, or if you'd like to do so tonight, we'll take the information. Keeping things moving. Moving along to the ESSER update, slide 66, the HVAC project updates. The second floor HVAC equipment installations at Beaufort High have been completed. OSF inspection took place on August 3rd. And we do have the GMP proposal for the HVAC replacements and building renovations here at DESC scheduled to come in this month. The construction documents for the first floor Beaufort High School HVAC replacements are on schedule for completion in the fall. The bipolar ionization project, slide 67, and Butterfield project, slide 68. Our third-party verifications are all complete. Materials have been submitted into OSF, and the project closeout documents are currently being prepared. On the subject of project closeouts, we are still tracking the one project that remains under FY 2019 8% capital improvement funds. There's 8 that are remaining under FY 2020. And in the referendum project materials, slides 71 through 74, we're now reporting 30 closeouts completed to date. And as another reference point, the 519 monthly financial report, that's attachment 3 in your materials tonight. A total of 133 financial commitments are now being completed to date. Moving on, speaking about financial updates, slide 76. Figures are provided through the end of July. The financial update is being reported with the green traffic light. Current referendum budget is still $375,710,000. Paid and committed funds are totaling almost 97% of those total budget, coming in at $363,994,391. Paid expenditures total now almost 68% at $255,152,320. Remaining funds, including contingency, now total just over 11.7 million, or representing just a little bit more than 3% of the overall budget. Contingency activity in July included the return of $376,925 from savings and unused construction contingencies, and use of $429,147. Contingency remaining at the end of July totaled just under $3.9 million. Moving on to community outreach, slide 83. Last week we had the Mason's Corner ceremony, and yesterday we had the ribbon cutting at Robert Smalls International Academy, now known as the Robert Smalls Leadership Academy. We do have ribbon cutting scheduled at Battery Creek High for August 25th at 1:30. And at Hilton Head Island Middle School, that ribbon cutting scheduled for August 30th at 1 p.m. Included in the materials for tonight is some information related to construction market data.
Before you
Yes,
Before
sir.
you go for that, let's see if there's any questions on this operations committee, this piece over here. Do you have any?
Yes, I do. In terms of Robert Smalls, have we passed all our inspections on that?
No, the final inspection is hopefully going to be finalized on Thursday when we get the certificate of occupancy.
Last week, we had OSF out there inspecting, and they often will find a list of items that need to be cleared, and the contractor working on clearing those items that were associated with some fire alarm items, but those should be corrected this week and ready for reinspection, as Robert said, before the end of the week. I think it's Thursday.
Well, Robert Smalls will be ready to go open on the 18th, I'm 21st.
We hope it'll be open before that. We hope to let teachers in next Friday, so.
Right, because teachers are in 6 days and students are at 13.
Right.
Couple of days. It's crunch time.
I was concerned to say that we didn't pass inspection last week, so I just wanted to make sure that
We have concerns too. We're addressing it, trying to make sure we're going to get them in there.
And that's not unusual for something to
Yeah.
fail the first time. That's
Right.
definitely not unheard
You
of.
gotta look at the size of that and everything that they
Yes.
look at.
Right.
right. Well, I mean, and that's what I said. But I mean, like I said, I didn't know
Find a
that.
few items.
Right, well, I didn't know exactly what it is and what that process looked like, but I just want to see exactly where we're at and just get ahead of it, just in case we see there were any hiccups in that process. So I definitely appreciate that. The hiccups should be resolved by the end of the week. Right?
Yes.
Sorry, I appreciate that.
Do you have anything?
Give me a second, give me.
All right,
You can go on.
Mr. Nate, do you have any issues or questions on the operations committee construction update?
None, thank you.
I have one issue on Battery Creek High School. Pastor Ben Smith and I are having another meeting. He wants to know what's being done about getting the vans and all the construction material out of the parking lot. And what are the plans in having that parking lot resurface from the damage that was done by having all that construction. What do I tell him?
So what I don't know a date right now, obviously. I mean, our goal would be to have that out by, before students get back. So I don't know a date right now. As far as, there will be some remaining, like that trailer will remain as they're addressing punch list items. So it won't be completely cleared out until probably all the punch list items are done and the contractor's out. As far as that parking lot goes, if you'll remember, that was one of the items originally that we had removed from the scope. That is the item for Battery Creek High School that's in the upcoming referendum. So in the upcoming referendum includes having that whole back parking lot completely redone, which will include islands, resurfacing, and what we would have liked to have had in there at the beginning of the project. But it is in the upcoming referendum.
Okay. Yeah, he ain't gonna be happy with this. It's life in a big city.
I mean, anything that's like damaged that needs to be repaired, we'll have the contractor repair.
Yeah, we're gonna need, he's concerned about parking for the football games and, everything that goes on for that.
It should be cleared out and it will be cleared out.
It won't be pristine.
No, I mean, well, and
It'll be useful.
it'll be useful.
But
Yeah.
it won't, okay.
And there will still be like the construction trailer out there for a while. I wouldn't expect that to be gone till September, October. So,
Okay.
but that yard of stuff should be cleared out.
And who's that asking questions?
Tim Smith, he's the head of the Booster Club at Battery Creek High School.
Okay.
He's got me to speak of.
And he's the one that funds the scoreboard.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Do you have anything?
No, I'm not.
Mr. Campbell, do you have anything? Dr. Claus, do you have anything?
She's gone.
She's not on. Okay, let's go ahead now. Let's move on to the.
Thank you. Yeah.
Oh, this,
Yes, sir.
one last question. And any money that we had we've had it to, we have closed that account that we have closed out. What have we done with that if we did?
Talking about referendum funds,
Yes, a referendum fund.
they get swept and moved back into program contingency, and those are tracked in the contingency log, which is in your material.
Right, but actually, do we have any of that?
Well, if you'll notice, it talks about activity in July, return of 376,925, so that's obvious, that's money that was swept.
Coming back.
Yeah, that came back. So that's closed out. Now, this was added to projects, so that was taken away, but if you're wanting to know how much came back from closeout, it's that number.
We got that picture ready?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna miss that. I missed that by I asked that question. I missed it.
Sure. All right, good question. All right. So we're at slides 85 to 86 regarding some construction market data, some project cost history, as well as some mid-program reset information. And I'm going to turn it over to Robert so that he can speak a little bit to this.
Now, is Carlton Dallas still on?
No, he's gone.
Well,
He goes in and out.
yeah, okay, I was gonna say, I asked that because this was information he requested at the end of the last operations committee.
Yeah.
We supplied that to him, and then upon receiving it, he said, oh, this is great data, I'd love for the rest of the board to have it. So we have provided it to all of you.
Yeah.
So this is basically very similar to what we gave previously before we did the version 2, I think, of update. So what you're seeing here is reports on economic data. This is basically for Q1 from 3 big construction companies, and this is information they send out to their constituents and shareholders. What you'll find is J.E. Dunn submitted some information that's pretty Savannah specific. So he talks about the Savannah area, talks about the unemployment rates and expenses for various materials in that area. If you look at the Charles Perry Partners, it's more generic for the nation and overall some data for the country and how that is underway. And then if you look at Turner Construction, it's pretty specific for the Atlanta area and the Southeast, but it's given the same kind of data from a different perspective where they're focusing on the Atlanta and the Southeast. I'd say J.E. Dunn is focusing on Savannah and the surrounding areas. And Charles Perry is more of an overall countrywide interpretation of the data. And then what I did one of the things Carlton did ask for, he talked about how we look at our projects in board feet, and if you remember that, and I mentioned to him that what we look at more is square foot data. And so you will find in here, gotta find it. It's kind of what we track on how all of our projects, here it is. This is graph right here, and one of
8B, Robin.
and one of the things I was looking for, when I put this together, just were to make sure all of our projects, including Robert Smalls, including the future of Hilton Head High School, are kind of in line with the trend as time goes on in price inflation. So you'll see on here all the major projects that we've done in the last 10 years and how that cost per square foot for at the time of completion was for each of the projects. Now, of course, obviously Hilton Head High School is a budget cost, not a completed cost. So yeah, and one of the things I would point out, I was kind of surprised by River Ridge Addition and how high it was compared to some others, but when you think about it, it was actually 2 small additions at the end and 1 large addition. So those 3 smaller projects, it had a higher overall cost. So do you have any questions on any of that information?
That's really good. This is mind-boggling to me. I mean, we see 100% increase.
Yeah, when you see it in front of you,
Yeah.
it smacks you.
I mean,
Well, I'd say Hilton Head High School is a different
Yeah,
scope project.
yeah,
It's pretty massive and
Yeah.
it's a tight site and it's over 4 to 5 years. So it is, and as I've been saying, it's the largest project we've ever undertaken and the most complicated project we've ever undertaken.
Yeah.
When we get to it. So,
but even the difference between the Robert Smalls and say Will Branch. That's just, but this data that you got is fantastic. This is really good, and this is kind of scratches my economic itch. But I went through this, I'm gonna go through it with great detail because I love these kind of things. But the trend I don't see a flattening out.
well, it is now. Remember, this is first quarter.
Yeah, this is first quarter, but when you still look at the cost of materials, you still look at the cost of commodities. It isn't getting better. And I just hope that our costing in this new referendum is going to be able to cope, is planning on this, coping with this, and the interest rates as well that we've got, because our interest rate costs are going to go up. We've been extremely fortunate in the cost of interest, in which is factored into the total cost of the referendum. This is really, I'll be spending a lot of time on that.
For your reading place.
Yeah, very good.
stuff.
And this is absolutely excellent.
What I hope this shows, and when we talk, as we've been talking throughout the year, actually about cost increases, everybody is backing that. This is all backs all that up.
Yes.
So that's just reassuring that,
Okay.
And I have one more
Yep.
section to provide a quick update on. That's our request for proposals, RFPs, and request for qualifications, RFQs, the RFP 23022. That's the CM at Risk Services for the campus master plan and the new pre-K 5 elementary at May River campus. Proposals were received on July 18th. And the selection committee is scheduled to meet in August to evaluate those proposals, and we'll be bringing a recommendation forward to the board as soon as possible. And the other one is RFP 23-023. That's testing, inspections, and reports associated with our kitchen hood fire suppression devices and hood cleaning services. Proposals were received on July 12th. And services have been awarded to Johnson Controls Fire Protection LP. And that concludes my executive update for this evening.
Mr. Smith, do you have anything else?
You said that there was a, you said there was a referendum, not referendum, just a, could you repeat that, what you said about, I heard the tail end of it in my mind, about the, K something that.
That's a request for proposal. That's where we advertise for vendors that are interested in providing construction management at risk services. And those firms that are interested put together a proposal response package.
That's a proposal for who though?
Oh, it's for the new pre-K 5 elementary at May River.
That's going to the bar.
The next referendum, yes. We have advanced design funds that are associated with that, but the firm also provides pre-construction services. So as the designer begins to make progress with his design, he can check the budget, they can do constructability reviews, things like that.
And my reason for asking about that is, so we're going out now and we're trying to get this out of the building possibly, is that what that?
This is now, the architect's already been working on it. They're
We've been
underway.
selected.
This is for the CM at risk contractors so that they can join the team and they can start to provide pricing information and guidance for the design. Now, let's just say the referendum does not pass, well, then their work ends. Then that's over. And this was funded with 8% funding.
Yeah, 9.5.
So now if the referendum does pass, they'll just continue their work and be full steam ahead into getting things going. So
That's the same thing we did with the extensions of May River High School and River Ridge Academy, and we first came on board. Is we used 8% money. And it's the design work. So then when the referendum passed, we can start construction.
Right, and I mean, I've gotten the vote, and the board didn't make a motion on that.
Yeah.
As we were talking and listening, then my mind gets it clicking and remember that. Yeah.
I think
We ready to move on?
I guess the only question, preferences to support this material at the next board meeting under construction or on the operation committee, give the brief update like I did this evening as well. I'll do that.
And how far are we close to wrapping up this last, this referendum?
Really close. When I went through the financial, you can see that, we're down to, arguably almost $10 million is all that remains. And we're in the short strokes, and I've been talking to each of the project managers now for the last 4 or 5 weeks. We're on schedule for the remaining work to get all of that under contract before the end of September is our goal. So, once we get that last 10 or $11 million contracted for, we'll have all the work under contract.
It's good to know.
I think when I looked at it, it looks like right now that when it's all said and done, it will probably have about $600,000 that we won't have spent out of the 380, whatever.
$375 million.
$375 million. So that's pretty darn good.
With all the challenges that we face since COVID, escalation in market that we talked about.
Less than 1%. Okay. Ready?
next is Carol with the capital improvement project list.
Okay, you all have in your packet 2 documents. One is the CIP list summary and the other is the CIP list detail, same format that you all received last month, where you all asked us to take a look at life safety items and see if we could move those forward. So we have Nick on the line as well to answer any really specific questions. He's highlighted those items that we moved, and you will see a new column on the very far right that explains sort of what we did. So if you look on page 1, update notes. Page 1, that Bluffton ECC that highlighted in blue was a life safety project. We moved it from 26 up to 25. I think there are 2 projects that we did keep on, 26 that were under life safety and security. One of them was, life safety and security.
Yeah.
One of them was the, vape detectors. Because we want to get a little more information about those, before we move forward with that. And the other one, now I'm drawing a blank, Robert.
It was Broad River.
Oh,
internal doors.
the internal doors and switching the direction those go. We need to work with the project manager and get a little more detail on that before we can even proceed with that. So if you have questions for Nick.
So the 2025 list ends at Will Branch Early Childhood, Early College High School on page page 3, right?
Yes.
Page 3.
Right. Everything above that will be in the 2025 8%.
Yes.
That's correct.
So these are all sorted by their FY year
Right,
and then by the school name, so
Right.
that you're correct on
Right.
that.
right. Any questions? for Mr.
Yeah, so what is this, they got middle school on page 2? They got elementary school, excuse me.
We moved that one up. It was slated in the last version for FY 26, and we have moved that one up. ADA ramps to exterior exits.
Yes.
Yeah.
And fencing at St. Helena Early Childhood. Page 3.
Yes, page 3, at the gates for crash bars to the fencing at the gym and migrant building. We moved that one forward as well. Like I said, all of those items that were in 26, we moved to 25.
And just a quick question, the doors at Broad River, that was just something just to, what was the?
So there's a
Okay, go
request by the, I believe the principal was noted by, I don't remember who actually noted it.
I think it came in with a principal identification and maybe others, but yes.
And they wanted to change the swing of the doors for safety and security from, make sure I get this right, Nick may need to jump in. They were from an out swinging door that goes out in the hallway to an in swinging door. And so part of it is we do not have to do that because it's grandfathered in, because at the time of construction, it was accepted. And there is some question about what's the benefit of doing it and if we should do it. And so we need to do some more investigation on that before we move that forward.
But the doors is functional and.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, yes. It's just the direction, from the swinging out into the hallway versus swinging into the classroom.
Yeah, I mean, it's been there for 60 years,
60 years.
but-
That school was built in the 60s.
yeah.
Oh, just in the 60s?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The main portion of that school.
But it's been like
It's
that
had
for 60
additions,
years.
but yes.
But current, if it was built today, it would be required to change. But, so the question is whether there are some reasons to change it and there's some reasons not to. We need to do more research on that.
Mr. Nate, do you have any questions on the 8% list?
I do not. I agree with the move ups, all the stuff that was moved into the earlier calendar year. So thank you. Or fiscal year, sorry.
Great.
The roof repair, we're not paying for that.
So we may need funding to go forward and get it done, and then we'll be reimbursed for that. So we have to have a funding source to go forward with it, and then once it's done, we get reimbursed. But finance won't let us go forward with it without a funding source to get started. So we have to pay for it, and then we get our money back.
Do we have that in writing and do we have a contract with that with
It's in the
It's in
contract.
the warranty for the manufacturer. So we've already met with the manufacturer and they've committed to it and getting that work done. But the process is, we're gonna have to do it,
Right.
then they will reimburse us.
I mean, I understand that they've committed, but I just like black and white. I just like the contract, that once we do it, that they will.
It would be their warranty. So we have a copy of their warranty for the product. And it's Johnson, how do you pronounce it? Johnson Mansfield?
I think that's right. It's a 20-year warranty.
It's a massive company, so I mean, it's not like they're gonna go away tomorrow.
Yeah, that's one.
Anything further?
Well, for this, we would like a motion.
To approve the list. So
Okay,
that
yes,
is becomes our official
Yes,
list. Yes, sir.
Yes. Do we have a motion to recommend this 8% list for FY 25 be presented to the full board for approval?
So moved.
Yeah, Mr. Nay made the motion. Now then, Robin, get it up.
Motion to recommend to the full board, the 8% less.
FY
2025
for
Eight
FY
project list.
2025.
20.
Less.
Got it?
That was from Mr. Nay and second by.
Mr. Smith. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries unanimously. Okay,
Before the last item before we get to transportation is vandalism at Hilton Head Island Middle School. And I got Freddie here to back up, help me out with any questions you may have. This is your information. Just so y'all are aware what went on, and this ended up being a much bigger deal than any of us would have anticipated. And we used emergency procurement to facilitate this. So this is going to be under emergency procurement. So it's real. That's why we do not need approval for this, but that's the contract. Yes.
sure.
Yeah. So what happened is in 2 occasions, actually, we think students or people got into the building. They spray painted some areas and released some fire extinguishers. It was a couple fire extinguishers the first time. The second time it was throughout the building. And what I can tell you is I went there to observe what ServPro was doing, and they had brought in at that time probably 60 people. And they had HEPA filters all over the place. And I was like, what in the world? How is it this big? And so I asked for our insurance adjusters to come look at it and give us some advice, because at that time it was recognized this was a big deal. This was not a small event. We told the insurance adjusters about it. They came down, they met with the contractor, they approved all the work that's being presented, and they gave us the authority to move forward with it. And it was $1.25 million is the amount of work that it's going to take to clean up. And I had that same reaction. Basically, the way it's explained to me is it's being treated like we had a fire, but there was no fire. So all the fire extinguishers were expelled. They got sucked into the HVAC systems. It got spread into every room in the building, even ones with doors closed. They have heavy metals in them. We have to change out ceiling tiles. And you cannot use water, so they can't use water to clean things. They had to wipe everything down. They have to run everything through HEPA filters to clean it up. So that is what you see in this contract rate.
So kids,
And they get they get 3 cleans basically, 2 dry cleans and in some cases a wet clean. Like the kitchen does get a wet clean.
And everything in there, every box,
Everything.
every furniture, everything in that building went through that.
Because they fired off fire extinguishers.
And there was spray paint damage. They got into the supply closet for the social worker and threw shampoos and things that would be given out to families, just everywhere.
And of course, with the construction going down, the whole network was down because they're working on that and redoing that, so we had no cameras. We did, there was a post by one person that showed them in the gym on social media, and the sheriff's department is aware of it, so they are tracking that down.
And this is how much again?
1.2 million.
$1.25 million.
And that's our insurance paying for it, but that means our rates.
Out of pocket for us, yes, they've already warned
They
us
did warn us of
that
that.
our insurance rates will go up. Out of pocket for us, I believe is $50,000. Is that right? Yep.
That's a deductible.
25 brings it.
And if you know how they broke in?
We, not definitively, the sheriff's office is looking at it. I've heard a couple theories. They believe a door was propped open possibly in the area that the contractor was not in. I believe it was some school people. And then another theory on the second one is they came in through a roof hatch with a ladder up against the building.
So there was 2 incidents.
They were, how many days apart?
It wasn't much, just less than a week.
2-3 days apart or something.
And we found the first incident. That it happened
Fourth of
again.
July.
And you would have thought that we would have taken care of how they broke in the first time. But you said they probably came in a different way.
And I will say, our insurance adjuster is looking into that and whether or not they're gonna hold the contractor responsible. So if they feel that the contractor's at fault, they will sue the contractor for that. And that would be Thompson Jones. So that is part of what they interviewed people, and they're researching the causes and whether or not there's liability for the contractor.
I think you're gonna have to brief this.
Yeah,
I need to report this at the operations committee report, and then you're gonna need to tell the whole board this.
That's why I'm bringing it forward.
Thank you.
Because this is a big deal.
Yeah, it is.
This is a small little.
And
Well, it affected the schedule somewhat, I believe, on the project as well. They were contractors ahead of schedule on this.
And if you went in that building, so we had 100 workers in there with the contractor, we had 80 workers in there with Servpro. It was a ant's nest of workers. Yeah. It was kind of unreal to walk through that building.
Okay.
Also, so that's just, so did they do they do decide that Thompson and Turner is to some negligence, and then how will that affect our insurance?
I don't know the answer to that.
I mean, because
I'm sure our insurance would go up even if they sue them and get their money back.
right, that's the
You're
But I don't know that. That might be a question for Jennifer State. We may not get it is hard long term.
Mr. Nate, do you have any questions or comments?
No, I just share the same sentiment. Like, if it happened once, shame on us, or shame on you. Happened twice, shame on us, kind of thing. So it's unfortunate. Yeah, but interested to see what the fallout is on insurance premiums. No other questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I will add, after the second instance, the sheriff office has added some protection to it.
Good.
We've
Okay.
also held additional conversations with each of our project managers and asked them at their weekly meetings. Bring it up with each CM. This is not the time in a project where, a propped open door, look what it can lead to.
Yeah.
So those conversations have taken place.
Good.
Yeah, these prices almost questionable the revenue may need overnight security. I mean, because this is
Okay. We need to move to executive session.
You know, we did it.
That's my cue.
Have a good evening.
All right, thank you, Bob.
We'll see you next week.
Yeah, see you tomorrow.
Oh, yeah. Clock meeting. And we did move the location. It's here in the meeting center.
Okay, hey, man, yeah.
See you tomorrow.
Well, so we're on the county channel, they're turning the county channel off, so they can't.
Yeah, we have to do this. Station.
It's the routes being published it out.
Are we going into executive session now?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Okay, give me 1 second. I'll take us off.
We probably need. You probably need to have a vote to go into executive session.
Got it. Very well.
We just have three, or do we have one? Do we just have three?
I think I brought one.
Four, because me, all of us brought one, Carol. We got 4, that should be all.
Yeah.
Robin's coming down. She said you might need to take a vote first.
No, we're not taking a vote, just
No.
doing it.
Okay.